Welcome to the Chey and Pav podcast experience.
You're listening to the Chey and Pav Show, teachers talking teaching.
We're two middle school teachers sharing our reflections, insights about the topics that matter the most in the classroom. So hey, Pav, join us in the hallway or even the parking lot, or better yet, how about the staff room?
Welcome to episode 120 of the Chey and Pav Show. Thank you for joining us as we sit around the table to talk teaching. In this episode, we are welcoming a new year, and with that comes a new word that is meaningful to us and also guides our practice in the many aspects of our lives. We'll also reflect on our word from 2022, responsive, and see how it has impacted our lives in this past year. I'm excited about this episode, and I'm excited to be here. New year, new beginnings, but the same dynamic duo. Who knows? We'll see in a moment. My name is Pav Wander, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Chey and Pav Show. I'm seated next to someone who likes to introduce himself, so I'm going to go ahead and let him do that.
It's episode 120 of the Chey and Pav Show. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes, it's dark, and we're wearing Rodecaster microphones. Hit it!
Oh, I like that. That was fun. Energetic.
I try to be fun.
Yeah, you are fun, though.
Oh, thanks.
I'd say he's fun.
And I can be energetic at times. Pav,
Right.
and of course I'm Chey, the impressionist, and that's not a reflection of my teaching.
Do you do impressions with your class? Or, when you had class?
Yes and no. Early on, I did a lot of impressions, and I think I came a little bit more aware as I grew older that impressions are, like humor, is dangerous territory to rely upon. And so I've cut that out to make sure I wasn't alienating anyone or playing into stereotypes where I was a little afraid that maybe my impressions, I just assumed they were just great humor building, relationship building. But I think as I grew older, I wasn't sure. And because I wasn't totally sure and I became a little bit less comfortable with the practice, I do different personas of myself. So I'll jump into Gym Guy, Mr. Cheney. But I won't necessarily do impressions per se.
Yeah. Impressions are a little risky.
Yes.
I would say. But I don't know that comedy, especially if it's a part of who you are and part of your personality, I don't know if that's something that you should abandon because
you have to, and maybe abandon is too strong a word, I agree with you, but there are many lines that can be crossed with comedy. So you have to be very purposeful with how you want to be funny and entertaining.
I agree with you there.
And so like Don Rickles material,
probably wouldn't fly.
George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, these cannot be my mentor text.
No, so, you're right. But I depend on a little bit of comedy to sort of for that relationship building. Like I do like I wouldn't say that I like outwardly try to be funny, but I allow my funny self. Oh, you're looking at me like, oh, really?
I was like, all you do is try to be funny to try to get me to laugh.
No. I am funny, and you find it funny, which is why you laugh. Let's not mix up these wires.
We've gone over this material before. I don't blame folks. I blame myself for not finding people funny.
Right, and you find me funny, so don't Don't put that on me.
And
That's a you problem.
Let's ignore that whole comment because the core was you said you don't try to be funny, and I articulated that you do nothing but try to be funny endlessly.
Maybe just for you. Maybe because I like to see you laugh. See, there you go.
I don't do it too often. Pav, you know, I sort of you are right. Like now that I'm thinking a little bit more, I do very much pay attention to jokes. I don't just go off the cuff. It's not like I'm playing baseball or on the basketball court. So you're right. It's part of the material, but I think you, as an educator, not that this is our topic today, you have to be really careful about your humor, and you better think about it well in advance, which I guess makes you more like a real comedian because you're not just making stuff up. You are really aware of your audience, your class, how this can land. And I think maybe as I grew into my teaching, I realized more and more people can be hurt or traumatized, or it can be a turnoff. And so, yes, comedy is part of teaching, but I would say for me, it's a lot less. And I think we've talked about this before, Pav, or I have, is that I relied a lot on my personality as a teacher early on, and comedy and being over the top was part of that. And so I guess for me, it's a personal journey of tempering those things and relying on other things and not totally giving up on those things. But I think when I think of myself, I realize I don't use humor anywhere near as much as I relied on humor early on.
Yeah, that is definitely true. But I also do feel like, you know, if you are a funny, charismatic person, that is something that's very difficult to strip from your personality. And especially when you're teaching, because it really is, it's a comfort zone. Like we're not in classrooms, like we don't have our own classes that we teach this year. But I often find myself reverting to the, you know, telling some jokes or being lighthearted with the class. And that is my comfort space in the classroom setting. When I am with students and we are relating to one another and we're building that relationship and we're learning about one another, that is, it's not something that I consciously resort to. That is just how I do that. And so it's difficult to take that away because I feel like I would just be a very bland individual if I didn't include some of those aspects of my personality when I'm teaching, you know. And so it is, you're going to say it again. I know you are.
Bueller.
I can see it on your face. But yeah, I guess we can move on from this conversation now.
No, we can't, because I'm thinking.
Okay.
And I was thinking about different classes and how your material lands differently with different classes.
Yes.
So I was thinking of my class this year. My class this year found me really funny.
Yeah.
Even when I didn't think of myself trying to be funny. I think they found my personality funny, the way I would address things funny. I remember last year's class not finding me funny at all. Ever.
And it hurt your feelings.
I remember talking to you about it. I said, I don't know if I used the word like, but it's funny, Pav, because last year's class, and maybe myself and my class, is probably the most successful teaching year I've ever had. And I know there was lots of great successes, lots of great moments. And I think students really appreciated that component. But I don't know if my personality was as important to my class last year as sort of the content and the activities. So I don't want to say I had a bad relationship. I had a different relationship with my class last year. It was a dynamic I wasn't quite used to, where I was those type of things that I would tell stories and I realized they didn't seem to be resonating. Of course, they do resonate. Not every kid explicitly tells you, hey, that's a good story.
Yeah.
But those little look-fors that I sort of got used to picking up on, they weren't there. And then when they returned this year, I was like, okay, and it's not about one class being better than another class, just a different dynamic. And I remember last year struggling with talking points, and I changed a lot of how I was teaching to try to, you know, it's constant feedback. What was working, what wasn't working. And so
you were being responsive.
Yeah. So when you were talking about comedy, it reminded me that everything changes every year. There's those slight dynamics every year with your grades, routines or things or comments or little lines. Sometimes they land, sometimes they don't. And sometimes it's not even about you. Sometimes it's about the class dynamic.
Yeah.
What if there's someone in the class that needs to be, is sort of the comedic genius? And so as a student, they don't want the teacher to be that because it takes a little bit from...
competition.
There we go.
That's right. And why do you want to be competing with your student? That's right. So it is.
What
it is.
every teacher at the back of every assembly when there's a special guest and they ask a question. I'm going to jump in here, Pat. This is a rant. A good friend of mine that I taught with like 18 years ago, there would be a special guest presenter and they would ask questions and he would always rush to put his hand up. I said, you don't need to answer, eh? You can let one of the kids get it.
Oh, the teacher?
Yeah.
He would try to answer the questions?
Not try to. He would put his hand out right away and he's not the only one.
But was he trying to be funny?
No, he wanted to be right.
He wanted to be right.
Wanted to show everyone he knew it. It's like, it's not your job to know it right now.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So usually when there's presenters going around and they're asking questions, I will usually walk over and just whisper to a few students what they might want to say as an answer if they sort of didn't quite get the content or they weren't into the content.
You cheat. I do the same.
That's right. But at least it's like I want to center the student success. I just remember teachers in the back. Yeah, I got it. Come on now. Get over yourself.
I would find that hilarious. I would be sitting on the sidelines just laughing.
Now, if you're listening, this story is not about the past, because if you walk into any assembly, look around. There are 3 or 4 educators that so much want to share the right answer because they got it.
Well, that's when you whisper your right answer to the nearest child in front of you. Say, hey, answer the question. This is the answer.
We split the prize.
That's hilarious.
We promise this episode will be under. No, it won't. No chance. I didn't even designate a time frame.
No, we're at 11 minutes, by the way. So just letting you know. We are talking about our one word. We are welcoming a new year. This is our first episode that we are recording for 2023. We have another one that we have already recorded. It's in the bag, but we're saving that for a couple of weeks from now because it is part 2 of a crossover episode with Beth Lyons for Read Into This.
Pav, sorry, I've cut you off like 6 times. We probably haven't done an episode in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
we have more episodes in the bag in terms of what we're going to do than we have in a while.
That's right.
Because we have the crossover.
Yeah.
And then we have Goldie Mohammed.
You gave it away.
No, edit that out. And then we have, fill in the name. I believe someone associated with the white books that we've been giving away.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if maybe they have
chart.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe they've designated who's speaking, but we're doing an episode with them.
It's Toby and Frank. They are the co-founders of White Book, and that has been we've been using flip charts for everything for the last little while, and so they are gracious enough to come onto the show and talk to us about their success, and that's coming soon.
Yeah. And then AI technology, Chat GDP. I was even surprised.
GDP, gross domestic product. I'm not making fun of you. I promise. It's just GPT.
Don't worry. Most people are laughing. I just don't find this sort of stuff funny.
But you laugh at your own jokes, so that works.
I'm a good gauge of my humor.
Yeah.
And that episode, one, you're not even sure if I'm really speaking right now or if this is an AI Chey just filling in the gap for when Pav speaks for real. The AI technology is so advanced that they would know how Chey would respond.
I just submitted the first 119 episodes to Chat GPT, and I said, just pull answers using Chey's voice.
I think it said easy. I was like, what? No,
Easy.
It's not easy. You know how complex and nuanced I am.
No, not that much.
No, not really, Jim Guy. We got you. But we're excited to do that because our learning in the last 2 weeks is we can't read enough, can't play enough, can't explore enough to sort of
fun.
To use this. And then it reminds me, Pav, I'll do a little anecdote. It's not really about anything we'll talk about. Then we'll go to a little break and come right back. Is that about 4 days ago, I drafted up a tweet and you told me to save it. And it was wise because I said, you know what? This chat... gross domestic product is going great, but the amount of people that so quickly try to position themselves as experts is turning me off a little bit because I'm pretty sure this is a brave new space, and yes, some folks will be a little bit more advanced in their AI and they can offer a little bit more, but it becomes too many people too quick to rush. So, we've been very public trying to share what we've been building. Like I wrote my one-word blog by not writing it, by simply putting in a few prompts, putting in a few things of my personality and seeing what it would produce so that I could then know how I'm going to bring it back into the space. But it comes back to this quote is that the Chat GDP has its own Twitter handle, And they responded today talking about, 1 million users, fastest growth, blah, blah, blah. And it's amazing how many people have positioned themselves as experts. And I messaged you and said, I had that tweet. I had that tweet a week ago and you told me to save it.
I didn't realize that you didn't post it. So I thought that the handle had actually copied you. And then I didn't realize that, I had advised Chey to not post it. And now you don't get to be the person who made that comment first.
That's some insider baseball, though, is that, yes, Pav tells me whether I should tweet it or not. And it goes through a rigorous editing and feedback.
Is anyone surprised by that?
Well, no, but pretty soon I'll just start dropping it into AI and see what they say.
Okay.
I'll compare. See, well,
yeah, you already did that with Grammarly. Like Paverly is gone.
Shh. Oh, Chey, is that why you use so many commas these days? Quiet. We'll be right back. You're listening to episode 120 of the Chey and Pav Show.
Get your hands up to the floor.
You're listening to the Chey and Pav Show.
And what a show it is going to be. Of course, you can always submit your own. You're listening to the Chey and Pav Show if you'd like.
Yeah, and we'll play it.
Yeah.
You can mention your name too.
Yeah, of course. I'm so-and-so, the author of so-and-so, the producer of so-and-so, the blah, 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 so-and-so. And you're listening to the Chey and Pav Show.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We love hearing voices that are not ours every once in a while.
I don't know about that. But I guess if you want to go that far. All right, Pav, let's get into a topic because we've got, 16 minutes of filler that some people love and other people are like, oh, let's go.
Yeah. So we're talking about one word. I mean, we've been doing this this is our 1, 2, 3. This is our 4th year of one word. And that's very exciting in and of itself. And so we've established this one word for the year 2023. And Chey and I have been doing this as a team for now the 4th year. And we're excited to present to you our one word for 2023. And then we'll also kind of recap what our word was for 2022 and talk about some of our reflections on how we felt like that went. Why was it necessary? I'll just give you a little bit of backdrop on one word. It was a book that was written by John Gordon, Jimmy Page, Dan Britton a few years ago, and it encapsulates this one word that you use as sort of your guiding principle for the year, rather than perhaps setting a New Year's resolution or repeating the same New Year's resolution for the last how many ever years, which has been the case for myself. I've really found using one word to be a little bit less daunting, and students I've found the same as well. And so it's been an exciting journey for us to sort of, decide on this one word every year for the last couple of years and see how it has impacted us as a team for the past few years. So it's fun to reflect on that. So I'm going to do a little drum roll for you, Chey, and you can reveal our one word for 2023. Ready?
Did you just do that by touching the mic when you could have just added some fancy sound effects?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I did.
We got an AI technology for that. And our one word for 2023 is focus.
Ta-da. I'll go back and I'll put in sound effects.
Or you know what?
Yes.
Now I'm gonna pause on this recording.
Okay.
And then you could add it in afterwards, and then people could compare and see what they thought better.
I'll do that.
So here is the drum roll. And our word for 2023 is focus. Now you choose A or B as your favorite, the drum roll or the post-effect drum roll. We recorded that without it. Pav, our word is focus. I'm glad you sort of went back to the history of sort of the one word and the value of one word. Because one thing I noticed with one word is now it becomes like this binary relationship in social media to either totally embrace the one word or to try to not embrace the one word. Mm-hmm. And it always reminds me how in those spaces we tend to forget what's good pedagogy. If the one word is of value for folks to keep them propelling forward, then why would you try to take that from people? If not doing one word propels your growth, then embrace on not doing one word. And yet it's sort of, I always find that funny. So is the one word something we have to hold on to every single moment? No.
Of course
But
not.
for us, is there value in having a word that we can draw upon? For sure. It builds sort of vision. It helps us on a horizon. We either use it to justify what we're doing, validate what we're doing, or even the reverse is to see when we're shifting away from a word is to say, well, this word actually doesn't actually do what I want it to do, or it's not facilitating what I want. Part of moving forward isn't necessarily that you're always meeting your goals. It's maybe understanding that a goal or a word you have is no longer serving its purpose. That adds clarity to your shift. So even in that concept, the value of the word for us is important. And so it reminds me of my coaching days, Pav, is that when you coach, I can't be giving explicit instruction as the game goes on, but I want some words, some trigger words that are going to initiate a response. So when in the soccer realm or the volleyball realm, want it just was the trigger. I got to call it. I got to get the ball. By calling it, I know I want to pass it to someone. The person that knows that they're not getting the ball knows that their role changes immediately and they get set up for the third role. So one singular word is the trigger for a whole series of actions based on previous knowledge, coaching through things. And so that one word is just a space where we can draw to every once in a while that helps trigger like a domino effect of all the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
And so, and with one little, to highlight the story, I was reading a social media post about, I don't really do one word, but if I did, it would be this. Oh, so you do one word.
Yeah, that's right. I know. I find that to be hilarious.
I laugh so out loud.
You want to publicly acknowledge that you don't buy into whatever, gimmick this may or may not be to you, but at the same time you are buying into the gimmick. And so because you don't want to be left out. And ultimately that's what it is. It's a whole bunch of FOMO. So that's fine. If you're setting resolutions or you're choosing a one word just to fit in with the rest of the pack, that's you do you, friend. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that find meaning in being able to do this. And for me, having a one word as opposed to a list of resolutions is a lot easier for me to focus on, or to, yes, I used the word in a sentence. It's a lot easier for me to, have that word as my guiding sort of mantra for the year. It's something that I almost meditate upon. This is what I want to be able to do this year. Or it might be something that I feel myself already heading towards, and I just want to lean in a little closer to it. And so, for the last couple of years, we've been doing this with our classes as well when we've been teaching. And it has actually been a little bit refreshing in our experience, in my experience at least, to have students to go all in on one word. Not only do they spend a little bit more time discovering what that word is for them, but also they're proud to show it off, because you don't have to write a whole bunch of sentences around it that explicitly state what your goals are, right? Like if your word is focus, like it is for us, you might have a number of different reasons why you've chosen that word, and it doesn't have to be out there for everybody to see, or know about. Neither do resolutions, but even just putting it down, that one word on a piece of paper rather than writing everything out, you kind of hold it in your heart and in your head what you plan to do with it. And you don't necessarily feel so bad when things don't go exactly the way that you wrote them down. Like the 7 pages of resolutions that I used to write at one point in my life. And then I would feel really miserable if I didn't achieve them, or achieve them to the extent that I wanted to achieve them. So having that one word sort of alleviates some of the stress that comes from not achieving the way that maybe you had thought on that one really motivated day of January 1st, that you thought you were going to be able to do in the next 12 months. So I like the one word for that reason.
I like how you put that. You hold it in your head and you hold it in your heart.
Thanks.
Focus.
Yeah.
Pav, do you want to talk about what focus means to us? Because, of course, often we throw out vernacular words all over the place, but we want to define what the meaning is for us, and that meaning may change.
Yeah.
But at the moment, what does focus mean for the Chey and Pav show, the Chey and Pav duo, for Chey and Pav? Because, of course, we also have our own individual words. And then maybe we come back and we can weave how those words play in and sort of the growth of our words from us to amplify, to responsive, to focus, because ultimately, the course of time, we create sort of this linear path with them. Maybe it's not linear, maybe it's a little bit more messy, but there's a weaving together of all those words that reflect the growth or the expansion or the extension of what the Staff Room podcast eventually manifested into. So what is focus for us?
So for us, focus has been really a direction that we have wanted to go with the Chey and Pav Show, with Chey and Pav education, who we are as a duo, to sort of streamline what we are doing as a team and to streamline what we offer our listeners and engagers, people who, have been part of this journey with us, whether they are, people who have been with us since the very beginning of Chey and Pav or people who have joined us along the way. So it is, pulling out the fluff and kind of really zeroing in on what we want to provide for ourselves, for our students, and for educators that are here to learn alongside us as we go through this journey. So, and I feel like over the past couple of years, our hands have been in many different pots at the same time, and it has really become very overwhelming. But then along the way, we've also discovered, this is where our heart really lies. This is where we feel like we are most impactful, and where we feel like we are learning the most as we go. So, and that changes over time. That changes as new pedagogies are evolving, that changes as new technologies are released. This changes over time, but do we want to necessarily be doing 18 different things at the same time and burning ourselves out? No, we want to focus in on the things that we feel are giving us the most reward. And I don't mean that in a very selfish way or materialistic way of, we're only doing this to be rewarded. That reward is also, we're learning, the students alongside us are learning, educators are learning alongside us as well. That is rewarding if we are growing wholesomely and holistically and as a team. And so that's where we want to go. And have we figured out what those things exactly are? Probably not, but that's what the journey of this year is going to be, I think. That's my interpretation of our word, Chey. And you let me know if I missed out on something that was important. I know we've talked about it and sort of, have decided what we want to do and stuff. But if you've got some other things that you want to add to that interpretation, please do so.
You nailed so many of the key components, and I'll probably just articulate it just differently, not so much different components. I think that's right, is that focus is on those goals. The focus and the goals are a understanding of sort of what have the last 4 years brought. And so our goals, I could maybe have argued, I wouldn't say drifted, they became a little generalistic and a little vague and perhaps not totally directed by ourselves. And you talked about we were in many different spaces trying to contribute and have an impact. But then the flip of that coin, and not that everything is a coin and simply two sides, but there was also a lot of pressure from folks to be a part of the projects they were doing. And it'll seem a little bit of a deficit story, but of course, you build these authentic relationships, but a lot of them aren't authentic. A lot of them are based on people just want something. And with the podcast, it's tough. It becomes tougher, or I guess now it becomes a little easier to understand who wants to be a part of this because they really believe in the messages we're sending and the stories we're telling and the experiences we're amplifying, and how many people see this as a gateway to amplify simply their story. And not that we're against amplifying other people's stories. It's not that, but we want to amplify the stories of folks that want to amplify our stories. Like, it's collective, like you pump each other up. And I think we have sort of discovered how many people in this vast space, as much as you can have these great relationships, there are people that simply want to use this space you've created merely for the benefit of their content with no desire or care about your content. And I think that in life becomes difficult to ascertain. And I think as you and I have gone through this great journey, we're focusing in on the people and the folks and the spaces that ignite our growth, but also that have that reciprocity piece, people that have amplified our story. We want to do justice and amplify their story and not get necessarily caught contributing to people that really don't want our contribution. They really just want our space to connect with our folks. And I think part of that focus is to see through the smoke, and maybe we're wrong, but we want to think we are gravitating to projects and people and folks that really want us to do well, because we know we can support them and they can do well. Real collective growth. And I think when you produce content, it becomes very surface level, and there's a real fakeness to that space that you have to work out. Who are, we talk about this loosely, who are your super fans? Yeah. And then who can we be a champion of in converse?
Right.
And I think maybe our focus was we were exhausting energies to people in spaces that really didn't care about what we were doing, as long as we were promoting their...
And that's the thing. I think that we've spent the last couple of years, not constantly getting burned, but, that we have had a few moments where it was sort of like, a little eye-opening. That didn't quite go so well. Or we didn't quite gain anything value in that relationship. And that can sometimes feel very empty. And that gain, like I mentioned before, it doesn't have to be monetary or materialistic or anything that helps us gain popularity or whatnot. It's gain in self-worth. It's gain in our own knowledge and perspectives. That gain can come in very many different forms. Is it making me a better person? Is it making me a better teacher? Is it making me a better educator, better leader, whatever it might be? And so that those few situations that we have experienced, and we've been doing this for quite some time now, and we feel like we are at that point where we can choose, we can focus in on the things that we know are going to help us further become better individuals. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, just like in life, knowing what you want to achieve and knowing how to get there. That's part of the journey. And so this word sort of reflects that journey and where we are going. And so, I think I'm very happy with the word, and it fits well with where we are in our travels.
It's be careful who you celebrate your successes with.
Yeah.
Because that will reveal a lot. And I think we've had a lot of successes, and they're not solely because of you and I, Pav. They're a byproduct of many other relationships that have gifted us great successes. So I could list off some of our big accomplishments for the year, and they may not be the biggest, but being on Edful Voice cover was a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
And yes, we've done the work, but also people that really wanted to help elevate our story. They wanted to champion that. Our picture book was a big success, and how many folks have come and really honored that project. You talked about gain. I thought of the word honor. It's about honoring the work we're doing. And that's been a great one. Our ability to do keynotes, it's not so much that what we've done, it's that folks really honored our work and want to be part of it, and who wanted to celebrate with that further. And some of the awards we've been gifted. And so it's been a great year of personal accomplishment, but we realize that's a byproduct of other people around honoring our content and being engaged in our content. And it sort of brought our focus. And I think, Pav, you weren't sure necessarily what that focus might mean for moving into the next year, but I actually had a small little list of things that our focuses we want to be on. And so we'd love to do, and we have our original plan for another picture book. The more content you create, it's just the more engaged, enriched, and weaved you get in with other folks that are sort of doing the same work. That's a little off tangent, but when I think of what is our focus, we want to do another picture book. We've talked about it loosely, but we have our first real sort of teacher book coming out. And this is a project we've been now working on 4 years.
I think this might be the year, Chey.
It might actually come out this year, but it is a in-depth book that we've written. It's almost 400 pages. It's going to have to be edited.
Yes.
We have done interviews on a couple of different themes with a lot of different folks. It really, almost like a podcast episode, turned that into content, and then a whole lot of writing along the sides. I don't know necessarily a lot of people think of us as book authors, but a substantial book that we have written almost all the content. And every book has a different style, but a book of collection of anecdotes. How much? It's not how much. That's the project. It's the collection of anecdotes. This isn't necessarily a collection of anecdotes. These are our anecdotes, our understandings, written in with some interviews where we've brought in. And so it's been a lot of real work and reflection. We're excited about that project. So our focus is in getting that done. I know it's out to, we won't mention which professor at University of York that is currently reading through it. But we're excited about that because it's a little bit of a different type of validation, because as two teachers, you don't get into the university professor space very often. You're too busy. You're not connected. And so, but these are the academic professionals that are teaching our new youthful teachers, and we're excited to sort of have that book in that space with some really incredible interviews that have engaged us in some content. So we're really excited, but the excitement is focus, because the learning that we have gained as teachers through that process is immense, but we really haven't been able to share it yet because it's sort of been behind the scenes. And I think that couples really beautifully with our picture books, because it's a picture book, it's an access point to podcast, and thank everyone that's purchased that book, brought us into their schools. We're really appreciative of that. This book is sort of, it expands sort of the definition of the writing contributions we've made to the writing community, the education community, as an extension of the great presentations we have done. I talked about keynotes, but also presentations with ETT and with EDFO. We're really excited to curate and construct an AQ course, because we've talked about that. That for me is a focus. Igniting, bringing that content more than an hour-long presentation, but to be able to create an AQ course that really goes in explicitly throughout. And then I had the extension of this idea of a master class. Not that we are the masters of podcast creation, but we create a lot of educational content. And because we're in classrooms and in a variety of different spaces, we can really address of what the classroom podcast looks like, feels like, sounds like in that space. How do you introduce it? Because, we've talked about this before. Everyone wants to share their software. Everyone wants to share the hardware. But do we actually talk about how we integrate it with all the curriculum, all the content? How do we introduce it? How does it manifest? How do kids respond in these spaces? How do we create these spaces? And I think that's sort of one of our benefits, is that we're not just guest podcasters in educational space. We podcast extensively in educational space. We know how to make it as an extension of a writing activity or as a book cover activity, how to use it as part of a math talk, how to use it as part of a homelessness investigation, exploration, how kids respond on the mic, their hesitations on the mic, how you breach those hesitations. So for me, when I think about focus, I think of picture book, our book, AQ course, masterclass. And of course, this focus, for me, Pav, brings it back to, it makes us a better teacher, makes us better in the classroom, makes us better in these spaces. And so that focus is really important, is to sort of filter through the noise, pick those areas of focus, and maybe they'll deviate, maybe they'll change.
Yeah.
But because we have this clear focus, it will allow us to see either the growth or how this is working or the need to change.
Yeah. While you were speaking there, I was sweating a lot. I was very nervous and very cringy. And I just want to tell you a little bit of my own personal experience of why I don't like sharing my goals. And so I often will say, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I don't know where it will go. And that's probably why. And so I leave that to you. And thank you for sharing those things. I don't know. That's 4 things, but it's 4 big things. And I don't know if we'll be able to achieve all of those.
By February
Or December. But I can't do that. And I don't know if it's a personal thing, if it's a previous trauma thing. I have a very hard time sharing with people publicly what my goals are. And so thanks for doing that. I don't know that I could have during this episode. And I know we've talked about those things. We've talked about those goals. And I always just feel like I don't know if we'll be able to do it. So I don't want to put it out into the universe. So that was just a personal little anecdote that I questioned while you were speaking if I was going to share that or not. And then I decided I need to share it because I don't even know if that's something you know about me. So I just put that out there.
It's a good share. Thank you. Did I know about it explicitly? Probably not explicitly. Could I have known about it sort of, because we've never been big on sharing our goals. And actually, as you talked about that, I said, there's two reasons we have talked about. One, sort of the science of the brain, which I've done some work on, is that when you share your goals out a lot, what tends to happen is people praise your goals. And that actually deviates you from your goals, because part of the sort of neurochemistry of goal setting is the accomplishment, because you get sort of this high.
Yeah, that
the high from,
dopamine.
Yeah, from success. But when you share your goals openly to a lot of people, and people give you a lot of that praise early on, is you get a lot of the same rush, but you didn't have to put in the work.
She didn't do anything.
So you actually become less likely to do it.
Yes.
And so we have been both very reserved to share goals, because we also know that the ripple effect is if people start praising you for goals you haven't done, you sort of get half the reward from no works, and so you don't bother.
But then you let yourself down if you don't get it. And so maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's just something that I've learned growing up, and I hate that feeling of not accomplishing something, but already feeling the good feelings that come with success without having done it. You know, it's like the whole idea of, I think I'm going to finally hit that fitness goal this year, and then thinking so much about it, and then just feeling completely let down when you don't get it the way that you envisioned it to be. And so I'm not sure if maybe that's what it is, but I don't like that feeling, and I get very, 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 very nervous when somebody asks me, "Hey, what's your goal?" And this is, I often just lie to people, and I say, I don't really have anything going on, but I will document it personally and just hold on to it personally, so I don't have to answer to anybody else other than myself. There's that accountability piece, and maybe that comes from repeated failures. Maybe it comes from my own expectations of what I'm able to or not able to do. Maybe there is a little self-esteem thing there, but that's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And I don't know if others feel the same way or if others have any of the same experiences. But I did cut you off. You said there was a second reason that we didn't get to.
Similar related to what you were talking about is this idea of how's it going to be received by folks, and then how does that play into it? One, will you not get the acceptance you hope? Will you not get the praise you hope? Does it go quietly? Which comes back to one of those original things I said, be very careful who you share good news with.
Yeah.
Because what you'll find too often is most people aren't as excited about your good news.
Or people will steal your ideas. That's another fear, right? Like it's oftentimes and we make this comment a lot. It's those that are first and loudest that get the attention, right? And so if someone is able to do it first, then are we going to be able to get the accolades or or people are going to honor our work the way that we hoped that it would be honored if somebody else did it first and louder than we did. So that's I think a major fear as well. So but I think that this is a good conversation, because when it comes to setting goals for the new year, sharing your one word, sharing your New Year's resolutions, putting it out there for other people, these are things that students experience, and this is, because of their own lived experiences, they may or may not want to share, or, they may or may not have comfort with putting their thoughts and feelings out into the world for many of the same reasons. And so one of the reasons why I feel like one word is a little bit successful with students is because they don't necessarily need to put a whole lot out into the world. They can be vague or they can be specific. And so that I think alleviates some of the stress and anxiety of some of these things that we have outlined as why I personally don't like to put my goals and my aspirations out there specifically. But I appreciate that you do. And maybe it's just our own lived experiences that create those differences, or maybe it's other things. But it's also why I think we make a good team.
I think it also comes, Pav, is a little bit of my own personal growth, where I think I would have seen too much of this as a competition years ago. Now I'm not necessarily, I don't know what's the right word. I'm not necessarily calm with everything around me, but and not to say I don't worry about what other folks are doing. But I think I'm so fixated on my own journey at the moment that not everything is competition based at the moment, or just the place I'm at. So I would probably say that in my own personal growth that it's a little bit more comfortable to put these goals out, because I actually don't necessarily feel as worried about other folks. I think because the focus allows us to focus on who matters, and those people that matter, those people that are championing us, hopefully we're championing them equally, but there is no competition. It actually goes all the way circular back to our first one word about us. And so I'm not, when it comes down to it, it's that dynamic of us. And it's actually, rather than trying to be bigger in scale, it's about being smaller in scale. And so as much as we're having this conversation to all our listeners, I guess I feel like it's our conversation.
It's therapy.
That's
I was
right.
just going to say, this has been a great therapy session.
That's right. And so I don't, and if 4 years in, the folks that listen to us, they're going to continue to listen to us. And that doesn't necessarily mean they agree with everything, but there's a comfort here that everyone in this space, this community, is championing each other. And I know there's a lot of hidden stories, because I often try to figure out who our listeners are, and I can't do the math. And when I think I know who a listener is and I talk with them, I realize they're not a listener at all, and you don't have to be. But it's sort of, it becomes part of that focus, is that our energies need to be focused on our community, but sometimes it's tough to figure out who your community is. And so the more content you produce, you slowly start to extract information. And so our listenership, this isn't the topic, is tough for me to figure out, because who I think are our listeners, I realize are not our listeners. Mm-hmm. And there has to be, so there are thousands of people that listen that I don't know who they are. Right. I wish I did. And I hope this community, I hope we are championing the work you are doing. And I have no idea who you are, but I come back to the goals. I feel comfortable in this community because I don't need it to grow. Of course, everyone would always love community to grow, but I don't need it to grow. And I'm very comfortable that our community, we are a community. And so everyone that's listening to episode 120, which is like 200 and some on it, is part of this community, and we are rooting for each other. And so I probably feel much more at peace to reveal these goals, because I don't think anyone that's listening, even 45 minutes into this episode, is not a champion of our work. And I that reciprocity piece, I hope we are championing your work.
Yeah, well said, Chey. Thank you for sharing that. I don't think I have it in me to share anything else. So that's it. I'm out, folks. It's just Chey from now on.
Oh, boy, I haven't done an interlude in a long time. Can't wait, finally. Pass over that Roadcaster Pro. Let me take... Well, Pat, that seems like a good spot to maybe go to a commercial.
I think that's a good idea.
We'll come back. We'll wrap this up. And it's only been, it'll be an hour and 45 minutes by the time we're done. But it's only been 45 minutes at the moment. And you've been listening to the Chey and Pav Show, episode 120, one word, 2023.
Get your hands up to the floor.
And you're listening to the Chey and Pav Show. And this episode is brought to you by January. Because it would only seem appropriate if we're doing a one-word 2023 that's what this episode would be brought to you by. So if all the other months are listening, hey, send us a check for $150 and we could dedicate this episode to you. All right, Pav. That was your cue to stop the button and actually communicate how we wanted to wrap this up. But you just looked at me and laughed. It was not funny. It was not funny.
No, but I really liked that. And I just felt like it needed that little moment of silence to let it sink in to all the other months. February, I hope you got that.
Come on now, February. I know you don't have as many days, so maybe cut you a little bit of discount. Maybe a little bit of discount. We'll talk about this later. But don't just get discount because you're only 28 days or whatever it is.
Is it a leap year? I don't know. What's
know.
the year? No, it can't be. It's 2023.
Our one word wasn't jump, so it's not a leap year.
Right.
Pav, let's bring this conversation back and tie a little bit of this into how focus is sort of the manifestation of all our words sort of building up, and you can sort of
Yeah.
measure our growth by our choice of one words. And maybe we can talk a little bit about how our own individual words, no, we weren't cheating the system by getting to pick 3 words this year. Although I think Beth in our crossovers does 12 words, right? One word
she
per
did
month.
1 year. She did 1 year. I think it was 2021 where she did 1 word for every month, and she wrote a corresponding blog post that went with it. And it was really great. It was a great idea. I applaud her effort because that did take a lot of effort to write a blog post every single month about that word and then have deliberate intention for every month. Even just 1 word for a year, I sometimes feel like, oh, that's it's a lot. Like when I was sweating, I was literally sweating thinking about all the things that we have planned to do this year, wondering if we're going to be able to do it. And so it can be a lot. So the 1 word for the month or for the year. So yeah, you were saying, I interrupted again. Sorry. And then I forgot
No, I
what
think
we were
it
talking
actually threw to you. And you froze?
about. Yeah, maybe a little bit. I did. That happens sometimes. I forget what I was going to
No.
say.
I'm just creating pause so it sinks into the audience. The Pav froze.
So, yeah. So,
No, you're not going to let that sink in at all, eh? I'll cut you off real quick. The Pav,
no, I'm also afraid of dead air.
don't worry. What?
Dead air.
Oh, I thought you said dead hair, and I thought you were making fun of my bald spot. I'm like, really? You're going to go there on this episode?
Oh
Pav
my
redefines
goodness.
bald spot by dead hair. Pardon me?
Dead air. Oh, I love it. Dead air. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm okay with the dead air,
Yeah.
and I have no choice about the dead hair. We had our 4 words. So,
Yeah.
Pav, I'll throw you this batting practice fastball to regain your train of thought. And
Okay.
you jump in whenever you want.
Sure.
In our first year, we had
Us.
us. The second year, we moved to amplify. And then when we went into year 3, we went with responsive.
That's right.
And then we culminated this year with focus. And then you and I had our 2 words that I think are words that play into how we're going to focus. And I can share mine. Mine was accelerate. And I think a lot of people assume acceleration is going really fast. But I chose accelerate as in the idea that I know the path I want to take at the moment. And to stand by at the gas station and not move forward was actually just opening up space to be distracted again. And so now that those goals have become clear, I can accelerate, not in a reckless manner, but in a I am going ahead now because I know what I need to do. And that doesn't mean I won't change, but in going forward, I'll know if I need to change or if I'm going in the right path. So I chose accelerate.
That's great. And I like the way that you defined it and connected it to focus. My individual word is iteration this year. And it's a word that I found that this previous year, I was using this word a lot. And I was, and every time I used it, oftentimes, you feel like you're using one word repeatedly a little bit too much. I'd often stop and pause. Like there must be a reason why I keep using this word. And iteration means repeating something in an effort to improve the result each and every time you repeat it. So you make small changes every time to achieve a better result. So whether you're working to some form of idealism or perfection or, a goal space that you want to get to, but you're repeating behaviors. So for me, that's repeating lessons. And I have the opportunity to do that because I'm in multiple classroom spaces this year. And in terms of our focus word for Chey and Pav, it's repeating things that I know are going to help us achieve these goals. Some of them we've been working on for 4 years, and it's getting closer and closer, but it's not quite there yet. So what am I repeating? What am I making changes to each and every time? What are we doing together to do that? How are we streamlining our content? How are we putting our content out into the world? What things are we repeating and making slightly better each time? And it is a part of the design thinking process that I feel is the most important part of the design thinking process. So, we're innovating every single day as educators, as content creators, and so what are we doing to tweak our work so that it does make that impact that is most rewarding for us as creators. So that's my word for the year. And it, even on a personal level, just repeating the same things. Like every year I have that goal of being, the most fit that I've been my entire life. And every year I feel like I'm not quite getting there. But this past year, I feel like I just have had the focus in the wrong place. And so, I'm trying to put the focus where I think it needs to be. And hopefully those small changes that I'm making on a day-to-day basis are going to help me get to that goal. So, iteration, that's my word. And that's how I tie it in to focus.
The power of repeat.
Yeah, the power of repeat. Yeah. Iteration is a little sexier, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of when I was doing my reading specialist and I talked about, post-reading strategies, pre-reading strategies, during reading strategies that, read something again. And I think that's been so taken over by it's just filler, read it again. But you read it again and then you give a few prompts that you're looking for. So the power of the reread, it's like watching a video. You start to pick up on other nuanced things, and there's power in repetition because it provides you space to see what's working, what's not working, and make those slight changes. And Pav, that reminds me of a theory you had in content creation. It was that you're a consumer, you're an engager, then you're a creator, but then you need to repeat. And when you repeat, everything changes. You're not just consuming again, you're consuming for a different purpose.
Yes.
And I think when you think about iteration, plays into focus. It focuses almost a very similar cycle. We started with us, which was a fixate on the work we were doing to sort of build what we were doing and improve what we were doing. And as we made that commitment, we realized we were in a space now to amplify other voices.
Yeah.
And so we focused on the amplification of other voices, other projects. And with that amplification, it drifted into responsive, that we needed to be responsible with our content and responsible with our messaging and being aware that we had a community and how did we want to curate messages and how did we want to be perceived and how were we being perceived. And all of a sudden, focus is almost a repeat of us, but it's an iteration of it. It's having our goals, knowing what we want to do, focusing on us. And by focusing on us, when you think about SEL and all these sort of buzzwords that float around, is that focusing on yourself allows you to be able to focus and better serve the people around you. Knowing who you are, knowing what you're doing, allows you to serve folks. And so this focus on necessarily our projects is ideally a focus on the people, the community around us. As we focus, we can help them focus, and conversely, they'll help us focus. So when I think of your word iteration, it helps me weave together our words of us, amplify, responsive, and focus.
Yeah, very well said, Chey. Thank you for that. And yeah, the words that, like, I feel like as we were talking about it, it's like you could write a book about how we have sort of evolved over the past 4 years with those words specifically. There's so much story attached to every word. And I find myself putting myself back in that space where our word was us and we were just building this space that we have right here in front of us. And it was such a early part of who we were and what we were trying to create, and then amplify and then responsive. And here we are with focus. And focus is oftentimes people think that, focus is something that you need when you are beginning something, like have some focus, start your homework or start your project, get focused. And here we are 4 years later, And now telling ourselves to focus, it just reminds you how complicated journeys are and how complicated life is and how complicated content creation is. And who would have thought that 4 years later we would still be doing this and still be setting our goals for the year as creators, as podcasters, as educators, as a team. And so it almost gives me chills to think about where we are and where we've come from.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Time to wrap up, I think.
I think so.
I think before I push the music on the swag bag, not that I really have a swag bag, as teachers, of course, we can tell you that this is absolutely an activity, a space you can bring into your classroom. Pav, I love the way you shared your story that maybe students are intimidated by specific goals. And maybe that's one of the reasons they don't have specific goals. But perhaps an entry point into goal setting is to have a one word, a word that can morph, a word that you can take many of your actions and say how it's connected or not connected. And you could do it through a writing activity. You could do it through an audio content. You could do it through a vlog. You could do it through, I think last year we did an digital photography assignment with it using Adobe. There's all kinds of ways you can get students to sort of pick a word, address their word. And when I can connect this back to a further episode when we talk about learning skills. Do we ever explicitly create spaces to teach and explicitly show learning skills? And goal setting is one of those learning skills. And if what ways and tools can we use to make goal setting accessible? A one word is one of those ways we can make goal setting accessible to our students and make it really explicit that this is a space we can grow from, create from.
Absolutely. And might I add that it's a new space for many students to just think about one word. Setting resolutions every single year, can sometimes be a little bit boring for students because they know that this is what is coming, that goal setting piece. But giving them, you're smiling, you've got an anecdote to share?
Yes.
Okay.
It reminds me of new teacher when I would walk around and every single class was doing the same. Write me a biography about you. And these students are asked this question every year.
That's right. And every year they have to write resolutions. And oftentimes they just repeat the same thing that they said last year because it's easy to do that.
Playing the game.
You're playing the game. That's right. So throw them a curveball and give them the one word. Yes, that was me using a baseball analogy this time.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a Blues Brothers impression.
Oh, no. I can't do that.
Oh, no?
But you can.
I already did one.
I know.
It was pretty good, eh?
It was good.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
Let's hit the swag bag. We've been talking one word 2023, and we sort of addressed what our one word was, focus, and tied it into how we learn. And if folks want that one word to push them to the horizon, we embrace it. But if one word's not for you, embrace what it is that allows you to continue on your journey. And so for us, we spend this sort of recap episode, this one word episode. We've talked a lot about us, but we need to thank you, the community that has allowed us for 4 years to share our stories, to amplify stories, to engage in a bunch of different projects. As much as Pav and I think we lean on each other, we absolutely know that if the folks around us, if all of you did not support us along the way by listening, subscribing, writing reviews, buying picture books, attending our conferences, sharing pictures of you with your voice magazine, showing up at our keynotes, that we wouldn't have this space, this platform. We're indebted to you more so than we are indebted to each other on that front. And so, although we haven't spent enough of this episode doing it, we want to thank each and every one of you for making the Chey and Pav community a vibrant community. And we hope that in our quest for our goals, that we are lifting you up in the process, and that our relationship is one of reciprocity, whether I know you or I don't know you. And we look forward to our continued growth in 2023, and we look forward to helping you amplify your growth as we focus together on 2023. And you've been listening to the Chey and Pav Show, episode 120. You decide whether this is the real Chey or not.
It's AI. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.